that has greatly affected the life of indigenous people in Canada since it was created in 1867. To understand the Indian Act, we need to look at its history. It was created in 1867 to manage how indigenous peoples and Canadian government interact. The act was part of a colonial effort to make indigenous people adopt Euro-Canadian way of life, which often meant ignoring the harming their culture and traditional system of governance. Historically, the Indian Act aimed to deal with the several issues. It tried to define what it means to be indigenous, control indigenous communities and manage their lands. So the act focused mainly on First Nation in Canada, showed a colonial attitude that saw indigenous people as needing to be controlled and integrated into mainstream society. Today, the Indian Act still greatly affects the indigenous life. It controls many parts of everyday life for indigenous people, including how their communities are run and how they use their lands. However, it is also a point of disagreement. Many people believe it keeps colonial control in place, it limits the right and independence of indigenous peoples. The Indian Act has been changed a lot. For instance, in 1951, some strict rules were removed, allowing indigenous community to have more control over themselves. The 1985 Bill C-31 was important because it tackled discrimination against women, giving back status to women who had lost it when they got married. To the Indian Act often come from indigenous communities, speak out and fighting legal battles. This shows that there are growing awareness of indigenous rights and the need for improvements. Some of these changes have focused on specific groups within the larger indigenous populations, like status and non-status Indians, in making the issue of right and identity even more complex. The Indian Act is a debated issue. Many indigenous leaders and communities want it to be either completely removed or significantly changed so they can have more control and independence. The future of laws affecting indigenous people in Canada is still changing, shaped by the voice and rights of indigenous communities. Thank you for joining us as we explore the history and effect of Indian Act. As Canada works toward reconciliation, it's important to understand this law to recognize the past and create a fairer future.